Hi and welcome. I'm going to try and explain things here the best that I can. So first up, I was just going to desensitize her to the lead rope, just because she was feeling fresh and to help remind her that the lead rope isn't going to hurt her. So you'll see in a second here that she decides to overreact. So there we go, there she goes, trying to get away. So you realize right here, because of her reaction, I slowed down and I just started lifting my hand up and down. I wasn't throwing the rope at her anymore. It's just lifting my hand up and down. Since she was reacting simply to that, I just kept moving my hand until she stopped for at least 3 seconds. Then I stopped what I was doing and just let her rest and think about it. After that, then I started up again. And once she's fine with me moving my hand around, then the next step is to swing the rope over her back again. So you'll see here, she's kind of leaning away from it. And there we go, she flinches. But you'll see she's actually standing there. And since she's not moving anymore, she's actually staying steady. Then I'm going to release pressure and just stand there with her. Now what I did with my one hand that was by her head is I hold my hand in front of her face so she can't crowd into me more. If I feel her getting too close, I can bump her in the cheek or the neck, wherever, to get her face to move out of the way. But I also don't want her to get her head on the other side, so if she decides to bolt the other way, I'm not going to lose control type of thing, and that I can still keep her with me. So once I've gone over her back, butt, and neck without any reaction, I move on to the back legs. Now don't be surprised if yours, kicks out when you first go for it. Melody has done this a couple of times, so she does know the rope means no harm. She just decided that today she was feeling extra frisky. So here I just repositioned her so that way the camera can see better what I'm doing. And she was there with my hand. She was kind of acting flinchy with my hand coming up, so I just repeated that until she stood still and was fine with it. Whenever there's a hole somewhere where they act all jumpy, you keep working at it until they're relaxed and standing still. So here you can see she's already doing a lot better. She's starting to remember what's going on. So yeah, but now one thing I want to keep remember with the rope is don't throw up and over. You kind of want to glide it sideways. I'm not always the best at that. I try, but you'll notice sometimes I make the mistake. Yeah, don't go directly up and over. It slaps a little bit harder. But if you just kind of glide it sideways up and just kind of flick it up sideways, it's kind of hard to explain. It kind of makes it land more gently on the other side, so it doesn't slap them quite as much. In general, you don't want to be throwing this hard at them. You want to do it soft because you're, just want to desensitize them. You don't want to put too much pressure. So now I'll be starting to work on yielding the hindquarters. So you'll see with my hand there, I just lightly press into her while I turn her head towards me. And as soon as she takes a single step away, I release pressure and just start rubbing her butt. And I do it again. So what I gently do is I just use my fingers and I press into her flank or her butt, just in that general area, as I tip her head. And as soon as she gives, I release. If she didn't give, then I would press my hand into her more. If that didn't work, then I would start to push into her a bit more, kind of, I forget the words, but yeah, just kind of push into her butt a bit more, and eventually they'll figure it out. And I did also kind of bend down, just because I'm going to use the bending over key, or cue, later on with the lunging. So when I bend over and look at her butt, that means she needs to move her butt away. So when it comes to lunging, that's one way I can communicate with her, is by leaning over and looking at her butt. She'd be like, oh yeah, I already learned that. And so it helps translate it a lot better. Another thing I do is I take time to rub her face and get her used to her head being handled. So here again, I gently press and she moves over. Don't worry about pretty steps in the beginning with young horses like this. You just want to get them to move their butt over. The prettiness will come with time. So, and once you can get 1 or 2 steps, like that step there was beautiful. Same with that one. Once you can consistently get 1 or 2 steps in a row, first you want to start with 1 step, but once you consistently get that build to 2, and you keep slowly building up until you can go full circle. This is not something to be rushed. This can take a couple of days. Even so, don't worry about it. As long as they give to that pressure, that's the main thing for now. Now here with her head, I have 1 hand by her neck and 1 hand up by her eye. So if she doesn't first move when I ask her to, I'll take my hand that's at the neck and start pushing against her neck a little bit. And I will kind of pulse my hands back and like towards her in a way kind of thing by her eyes. Helpful cue to be like, okay, time to move. So, and this helps loosen up her front end and understand how to move away from there. So here you see she started walking forward. And that's not what I was asking of her, so I was asking her to back up. And as soon as she took a step, I released pressure and rewarded her. So you see she tried to take a step, but I kind of bumped on the rope and I started asking her to move over, and so she actually planted her back feet and moved to the side. You want to make sure you always end on a good note. Doesn't matter if it's pretty or not. Just take your time. Make sure that they're relaxed. And here she started freaking out over the rope again, so I moved on to desensitizing for a little bit. You always want to work on, if they show somewhere that they're not comfortable with, you want to work on that. So here again, I'm asking her to yield. She takes a step away. I drop my hands, take away pressure, and reward her. She likes being scratched around her neck, so I do that as a bit of a reward as well. So there you go. She took a couple of steps and reward. And she's naturally a pushy filly, so this exercise especially helps with teaching her how to move away and out of my space. Oh yeah, she was enjoying her scratches there. You'll notice I'm keeping my energy very low and calm because it doesn't do well to get all angry and upset and in a fuss. You gotta just stay calm with them. They're babies, so it takes a little bit longer for them to really figure things out. And they want to always try new things too, see what they can get away with, so. Now I'll be moving on to the lunging part. Now there's a momentary pause. I realized my stick was starting to splinter ever so slightly in one area. So, time for a new stick and string. So with the lunging, she'll actually do pretty good with this, but something to keep in mind is they will be confused at first. When I first do it, I take the hand the lead rope is in, I point with it, so you'll see my hand up there, I cluck, and if that doesn't do it, then I wave the stick a bit. Now with her, because this is her 3rd session, she already is understanding the concept of it. Because here she knows how to move her shoulder over, I just pointed the stick over at her shoulder there and she moved away in the circle. See, I bend over, look at her butt, and she knows she needs to bring her face in. Now, you don't want to let them take their head away. You want to keep the 2 eyes towards you because that helps them build respect and understanding that they need to look at you and not turn their butt to you. This is what can help with that. So yeah, I point, cluck. I didn't even need to lift the stick that time, and she moved off very nicely. And we're just staying at a walk because lunging is not good to do too much of at this age for them. You want to do a little bit if they need to build that respect to understand you can move their feet, but you don't want to do in excessive amounts. And again, wave it at the butt. And I always rub her face and as a reward. So what I was saying with when you first start, oh yeah, here I was just asking her to move her butt away a little bit more and actually face me properly. Yeah, when you first start, don't be surprised if they just don't move or if they try and run backwards or anything like that. That is very common. With Melody, I would have to actually take the stick part and tap it on her butt. Now, keep in mind, not hitting, don't strike out or anything like that, but like a light tap. Just as a little extra pressure to be like, hey, you need to move your butt a little bit and go forward. And that's all she really needed. Sometimes they will get confused as to where they're supposed to go and they'll try and turn into you. That's when you point the stick, or if you need to, tap them on the side of the neck, and then they'll move that end over since you already taught that to them, and so then they'll go the direction you're asking. So here she didn't quite face in properly, so I started breaking down to steps to get her to move her butt over and actually face me. And you'll see she's starting to relax even more. I rub her head and she starts to relax and her eyes are closing. You can't see it too well in this video. I tried to change the brightness levels, but... So here you'll see she gets confused about what direction, so I lift the stick by her neck. And because it closes off that door, and so she goes the other direction, which is the way I wanted her to go. So for now, I'm just letting her pick her own pace at the walk. Later on, we'll start introducing it at a trot as well. So here you see she was starting to walk past me and ignore my cue and want to just do her own thing. So I corrected her by getting her to back up and swing her butt away, just so she could face me again, and then I reward her. And then generally you want to stand there with them for a little bit, let them relax, but I have work to do in the morning, so I just wanted to get the dewormer and give that to her before calling it a day and heading out. So I'm hoping this helps. These are the first few steps that I really like to work with a young horse. Just like, especially when they're ones that are really pushy, it helps them to relax and realize they can't just do whatever they want and run you over. So here I'm just showing a little bit of the backing up. Here I did a little bit of pressure. She started moving back and took one step, so I dropped my hand. Here again, she took one and then a second step, and immediately I drop. Normally, if I'm first teaching this, I won't ask for a second step right away. She just has done this before. That's why I went for the second step. So that's all it was. And yeah, I gave her the dewormer, and then she had to make a couple of funny faces about it. She was not impressed. And then the last thing I do before I call it a day, I ask them to lower their head, and I take the halter off when they hold their head a little bit lower than what they normally would. It's just this way they learn that they can't be a giraffe when they get older for any of the haltering process. Oh yeah, here's the dewormer. One way to help prepare for dewormer, I didn't do it with Melody just because things went a little differently than I planned, is to actually have a syringe of applesauce. And they like applesauce, so if you just give them a syringe of applesauce, then they'll be more than happy to take a syringe, and when it comes time for a dewormer, it'll make it a lot easier. Yeah, she wasn't too happy. So yeah, when I leave, I ask for the horse to lower their head. Then I take the halter off, And when the halter is off, make sure you are the first one to leave, not them. This will help teach them that they need to be patient. So if you ever take them to a pasture or something like that and you let them go, then they aren't going to suddenly bolt on you either before you have the halter off or after, or they're not going to just suddenly start bucking instantly and accidentally hit you. It just helps them to be patient and helps it so that way they don't see the halter as being taken off as that they're free from you. When you walk away first, it makes them kind of stand there and think a bit about it. And you'll see with her, she starts following me anyways. She knows a halter's off.